To continue our work on Spelljammer combat and exploration art assets. We're going to continue with ship token production today. Give me a few moments here to check my signal, go through my spiel, and then we'll dive in for a couple hours. And then we'll dive in. There we go. All right, cool. So signal sounds clear. Let's see. Ship token art. All right, cool. So updated the Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. I'm just going to punch out across Discords here real quick while I go through my quick spiel, and then we'll get back into it. So, hey, my name's Phil. I create PDFs for RPGs. Currently, I'm creating supplements for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, covering all the gaps and rules, scales, and growth that is missing from the current Wizards of the Coast 5e concepts. I publish on the DMsGuild. There is a slew of books in the description down below. You can read any of them they're 100% free previews, so you can read them all through cover to cover. Most of them come with additional art assets and maps and stuff that makes it worth purchasing as PDF downloads. There's maybe about 150 some odd illustrations between the different PDFs that are linked down below. So at least take a look at the artwork. I spent a ton of time building it. I would love for people to just to absorb the information. If you find it valuable, consider purchasing some of it as support for the channel, for the amount of time that I spend and the growth of the ideas. So that's about the end of my spiel. So we can get into it. Just make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell. Let YouTube know that folks are interested in seeing artwork on YouTube, not just Twitch, by supporting the channel, watching some streams, sharing what you like, and posting comments in the chat. Or if you catch us in the future, be welcome to shout out at me down in the comments. So we created this book cover around episode 15 of the Spelljammer live streams that we've been posting that are in my channel. I post Monday through Saturday in the mornings, and I have occasional streams in the evening, like I had last night for Eberron. This upcoming Thursday, we'll continue doing more Eberron cartography, and then Monday lunchtime each week, I do some development writing for the Martial Powers project, which we'll publish after we clear these things from our plate, at least Spelljammer from our plate. So we're going to dive back into it now, and let's see where we get. So we've been building the Star Moth. It's the last of the vessels that we need to finish. So there's two classes of there's ships, right? So there's vessels, which are like what are in Spelljammer's Adventures in Space, the larger ships that you're already familiar from Spelljammer, which are like Star Moths, Nautiloids, Lampreys, Scorpion ships, yada yada yada. The larger ships that are more than 50 feet in scale. But then there's the fighter craft that we've developed for this project, which are at the 5-foot scale, which are significantly smaller. Like you can see that here's a ballista here on the back and in the nose of the Star Moth, and here is, well, I think we can redo these better, but for initial takes anyway, here's where we're seeing ballistas on these smaller craft, so there's a considerable change in scales. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish up the Star Moth. Hopefully we finish up the Star Moth here today, and once that's done, we're going to go back into fighter craft, and we're going to start working on those as well. So I'm going to set a 20-minute timer here. Bleep. All the map assets, I think there actually might be some straggling little nibbly bits that we need to pick at on like the Omama Hunt Chase map. But otherwise, I think the maps are pretty much done, which is great news. Well, we still have some system maps to do, and of course we have all the layouts for the supplement itself to complete. So that's all work in progress, and we're gonna do it here on stream. So. Like, subscribe, tag along, sing the song. And let's just get back into this. So, let's see. Color. I feel like there's supposed to be more there. Cool story, bro. Where are we at? Deck plan. Let's see what our deck plan looks like. Alright, looks like we need some stairs. Stairs up, stairs down. Okay. Are you going to do stairs up, stairs down? Let's go find the living ship. I think it has stairs that we want to play with. Yes, it does. Nah, let's do it that way. There we go. We can... Bloop. Slide that guy into position. Wow, wow, wow. Let's just make sure this is... Why does it feel so uneven? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Even Steven now. Nah, fuck it. Just leave it be. You ain't hurting nobody there. I do like it like that. All right, cool. No, that is the correct path. Hey, Hornetico, it's good to see you, my man. Let's do like this. One, two. Beep, 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 beep. There we go. Set it away. That seems to line up okay. This is also lining up okay here. Yeah, now we can grab the floorboards. Go. Currently making some waffles. Right on, man. Waffle time. Badassery ensues. I celebrate you and your waffle dreams, sir. Should be yeah, that should be okay. Bump. Let's see what else. What else we need? Are we? Oh, that's right. I wanted to put in the black border. Truth. Layer, we can flip it up around. Free transform equals merge down, duplicate, free transform equals flip particle. How we want to do this? Kind of, yes. Let's do it like that. There. Let's get turrets out of the way. And grab that up. And thin down that line a little bit. Copy, paste, flip. Man, we are super, super close to being done with this. That looks better. We'll probably have, I think we'll have our layouts figured out probably by tomorrow. I'll show you guys the outline scaffold. Let's see. Okay, great. So we got that in place. We got that in place. Let's see. Is there anything else that demands attention? Signs equal no. So let's build. Oh, herbs. Clean up those corners. Pretty good. Yeah, looks good. Pretty good. Not perfect, but okay. There. Not bad. All right, cool. Save that real quick. I'm not done yet, but we're getting there. How do I want to do this? Let's see. Right, what I want to do is close up shop here. This. Yeah, I think we can afford it. There's not a lot of trim work that needs to be done here. That's great. Let's just make sure we do it right. Pixel here. Good. Better. Up a little bit here. Brilliant. Duplicate. Transform. Flip horizontal. Slide it into place. Merge down. You got a timer going, right? I should have a timer going. I swear I flashed camera. Hold on. Love that timing. So good. Let's drop this down to 50. Duplicate that layer. Free transform equals flip horizontal now, baby. Let's slide it on over to its position. Okay, my next question is, what the hell happened to my stairs? There they are. Bloop. Good. Let's see. I think I'm in the highlights now. So let's get into highlights. The structural stuff taken care of. Now all I gotta do is pretty it up. So let's I guess let's get pretty. not feeling that yet. Okay. I think what I am going to do. Yo. Bop bop. Now we're just making up details. Bop bop. Bop bop. Man, that curve. Smooth, man. Smooth curve. Bop bop. Bop bop. No, I don't really like that. Maybe like that instead? No, maybe not. Let's do this instead. See if we can slide this into position. Nah, doesn't look right. That looks okay though. God, I kind of want to rebuild all the floor plans to incorporate a lot more weaponry. There we go. Oh, I don't think I showed off the turtle that we finished. Turtle. Here's how that guy turned out. I'm pretty happy with it. Bunch of blades for fins. That'll be fun. Slashing rams. It's kind of like a Gamera spinning style. It also has a blunt ram up from the nose. Gunship. It's a, yeah, turtles are bruisers, man. Turtles are bruisers. I think I can safely leave this like that. Let's merge those down though. Let's duplicate the layer. Free transform, E equals horizontal. Yeah, that looks good. All right, merge that down. Maybe we want to trim it back a bit. Yeah, do a hole. Oh, computer's freezing up. What's up with that? See that power spike real quick there? That was crazy. Oops, off course. Smooth. Nice. All right. I don't think these are necessary though. I do kind of like how this section's off. I don't think I'm gonna keep it. I think I want to just work the curve. We'll keep it like that. We'll duplicate this layer. Free transform equals flip horizontal, slide that into place, and then we'll get into highlighting and shadows. Shadow will sit in place okay. Perfect. Merge down. Merge down. All right, cool. Now we can get back into those highlights. Yeah, that feels right. Cool. All right, now. Now we can do our highlights. About time, huh? We got an hour. Still got an hour. Plenty of time. We can get highlights done in an hour, right? Famous last words? Here we go. I think after this project is done, I'm going to have to come back through and rebuild all of the floor plan. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. This is something I'm going to do after I publish this book, which will be since fightercraft are a thing. I think I need to rebuild most of these ship deck plans to not only incorporate the difference between mounted weapons and siege weapons, but also docking for small craft and fighter ships. Since almost all of these vessels are large enough to be able to easily carry one or more fighter craft, it seems like there should be docking stations for doing that, which I think is a really good use of the underbelly for almost all of these ships. And none of these ships in the Spelljammer adventures in space have floor plans for the belly, because they don't want you spending any time down there, because I guess all the fighting is supposed to happen on top deck where stairways are at and stuff. But, you know, since there is planar gravity and people can just as easily walk along the bottom of a ship than on the top of the ship, I think it behooves us to introduce a use for the underside of the ships, which, again, is docking for fighter craft. That will allow us to have fighter craft on, let's restart that, like, you know, like escape pods and just accompanying ships. I think that's something that we can and therefore should incorporate into this, but I think I'm going to save that for a follow-up supplement. So I want to do shipbuilding. There's a slew of 5e ship supplement, like, you know, like adding magical equipment and crap like that to your boat. Like, there's already a number of those supplements on the DMsGuild, so I don't necessarily think that's a really strong standalone product for me to produce at this point. However, the way that we deal with weapons and ships in general with this document are really unique. So I think addressing additional weapons and stuff makes sense for this supplement, but that's sprawl. It's too much scope sprawl. So I think what I would rather do is just create it as like a 10 or 15 page document, just with with basic rules for building ships using the mechanics that we have in this book, and then build out floor plans, like modified floor plans to incorporate all that stuff. That feels like the right course of action. Come on, doggy. And plus, you know, I want to do like the Armada, and I want to do Dwarven Citadels and the Spelljammer itself. And there's large deck plans that I want to build for these different crafts that aren't represented, that have presence in 2e. It's just a matter of making time for them. Spelljammer's a part of the pun, but it's a really cool creative space. really want to build it out. God, I've got so much other shit on my plate. I keep making all these large projects, and I really just I wanna freaking slow down and do some small stuff. You know, like take these concepts that we've been building and like just like dive into the minutia of it. But like I wanna, I don't want to ignore the mass combat system, because people keep presenting mass combat options and none of them are hitting the mark. And I really feel like that's a flagship that I should be building. Ugh. I need a play space and I need a work space, you know? Like all these flagships are like serious work. But I don't have enough playtime built into them, you know? What I need to do is back off projects and like bite off, like don't bite so much so I don't have to chew for so long. I keep saying that. I keep not doing it. So maybe at some point I'll follow my own advice. I think I want to... take these turrets off of it. There, screw you, Fizz. Back to Ufus on patrol. That's right. Tidy up. Keep my beach clean. Ufus. Eh? Duplicate this layer, and then we'll transform, flip horizontal, scoot it over. Let's put our turrets back into effect. Oh, it just locked up, so We'll get to you, Crafts. We're almost there, buddies. Professor Token's back in. Let's merge these down. Really? Not bad. Not bad at all. Nice. Save that. Let's go down here. I don't like that curve. Let's just stay where I know how to use it's good. Start here, bud. Feel energy moving. God, that energy is just moving again. What's up with that? You're looking good. How those waffles turn out, brother? Kind of jelly. Kind of jealous of those waffles. I'm definitely a waffle man. Right on, my dude. Looks like it's time for some smooth jazz. Lies. Oh man, life is good. What we got? Still got an hour. Good, because I'm gonna apparently need it. I saw a movie, I think, yeah, it was on Hulu. It was called Triangle of Sadness, and I gotta recommend it. It's intolerable until it's hysterical. Like it's got it's got like a 2-act setup, and when it hits the 3rd act, it's when you get there, it's freaking hysterical. Triangle of Sadness. It's basically about a bunch of rich, worthless people on a cruise. It's just awesome. It is awesome. Just intolerable people. Just the worst. Hats off to the actors for just such disgusting characters. It's so great. Just vapid. Just like, by disgusting, I just mean like just ultra disconnected, vapid people. Just like the worst of the rich. And it's just, I won't spoiler it for you, but God, it's great. Woody Harrelson's in it, and he doesn't even ruin it. So, I mean, good job, buddy. Good film. I think this looks okay. tolerant. Duplicate the layer. Uh-oh. I mean, duplicate, not delete. Thank you. Transform. Go horizontal now, baby. Yes! Yes, let's do some more of this. Hey, Zach. Just started playing Spelljammer. Hey, nice, man. And the top-down maps drive us nuts, so use Tailspire. Any advice on making top-down ship maps that overly complex? Are you talking about, like, dealing with top deck, bottom deck, trying to move throughout the ship during combat, like working on multiple levels of a ship at the same time at the dungeon scale? Or are you, by the way, hi Zant, welcome to the mix, man. Yeah, just clarify exactly what the difficulty is, and if I have any sensible advice, I'll be happy to impart it upon you. And I've still got 45 minutes to do it today. So I do this every day. I'm here Monday through Saturday. Right now we're doing vessels, but we'll be doing fighter crafts next. So once we finish up the Star Moth, we'll move into the new content. I'm a big Roll20 enthusiast myself, so I'm not super familiar with Tailspire, but a VTT is a VTT. So it's you've already got tools that are going to make it easier for you in a virtual tabletop space. be able to use Spelljammer in general than what just being on a table is going to allow, just because of space limits. Yeah, exactly. All the decks and layers. Okay. Hold on real quick. Let's see. What I might be able to offer you as a... Just want to finish up this rib work real quick, and then I'll take a tangent with you. Generally you use Roll20, but Spelljammer is what made us swap. Just for that, really? Huh. We still prefer Roll20 to other campaigns. Makes it feel a little tricky because of the 3D nature, but you could potentially make a map with different rooms instead of layering them on top of each other. Have them separate for ease. Yes, that is very, very true. I don't know. I don't know what tools Tailspire has for stacking in general, but I think I'm okay with that. Let's see if Roll20 just pops up for me. No, I'm not logged in yet. All right, I'm going to shift my window priorities so I can jump into in here real quick and not give away all my business. Nah, it's not a problem, man. Let's see. Where's our playtest stuff? Here's our El Toral map. This is the map that we were doing mass combat using our fighter ship system. So let's see. I think this is necessarily the best screen to provide. This has got a lot going on. This has got stuff going on at the 500-foot scale, the 1 mile scale down here. The 50-foot scale over here. This is also the 50-foot scale here. So the way that my combat system works is we work in multiple scales at the same time. 5-foot scales on ship deck, 50-foot scales for basically like dog fighting and scrimming, and then the 500-foot scale for larger ship movements like here, and then 1 mile scale when we're panning out to like city events. But this is specifically for Descent into Avernus. Let me go ahead and see if I've got something. Is this the screen that I wanted to use? Yeah, this is the map that we were using for. This is the ship that we were using for when we were playtesting the Neogi space hunt after the Nautiloid derelict in Light of Xeraxis. We were operating at the 500-foot scale here in the asteroid maze, the 50-foot scale here when the Neogi Night Spider and its Spiderling fighter craft were attacking the space galleon that the ship that the crew is on, or the team rather, when you're using Light of Xeraxis, like in the first 2 chapters. So the way that, so basically the way that we line it up is that we were testing deck fires. The way that we have it is the Night Spider basically can use its belly to carry a number of fighter craft that we have. Oh shit! You guys can't see this. Hold on. Whoop. I'm here like this is sick, but I can't see. Sorry. Yeah. I forgot to shift my shit. Sorry. Here was the sorry, just to show off. Here was the Elturel map that we're looking at. So we have the city of Elturel at the 500-foot scale, and then we have the here's the 500-foot scale here with the one map. Here's the 50-foot scale where the ships are. We have fighter craft that are flying around. Here's the 5-foot scale where the ship in Descendant of Avernus we converted a giant worm into a scorpion ship. But so we operate at different scales at the same time using the system. Here is the Theurgy map I was talking about. This was the initial. We've changed it, but this was the initial map that we used in our playtesting for the Theurgy hunt at the 500-foot scale. And then here is the 50-foot scale that we have for the Galleon versus the Night Spider. Here are the Spiderling craft. The Spiderling craft, which you can see here. We'll be working on a better floor plan and official token for this Spiderling next. But that was inspired by the Theurgy hunt that we were doing. After you leave the derelict over here and you try to get your way out of the asteroid field, that's when the Theurgy starts hunting you. So you got your ship fighting Theurgy, and you got the Spidercraft here. So we were then looking at the larger scale. So in Roll20, we operate at 3 scales at the same time, and I've got illustrations that talk about this in the supplement that we're creating, but that doesn't help you here in the immediate future. We get the 500-foot scale, 50-foot scale, and 5-foot scale, and all of this in Roll20, depending on what your computer can tolerate. This is 10, 20, 30, 40. It's about 55. This is about a 55 by 40 foot grid. And of course, Roll20 can do up to 100 by 100, so you don't really need that scale. What you need is, I'll show you let's see if I can find the Elturel Zrax's battle. Okay, so here's the 500 foot. So here's each one of these larger squares is 1 mile. The Citadel of Light, which we built a map for, I think it's like back in episode 30 of this, is the 1 mile scale, where the Zraxis sits inside of it. And then we have the individual turret locations. Here is each one of these squares is 500 feet here. So you can have operating at the same time 500-foot squares, and then you can zoom into the 50-foot scale here, where we're seeing ships operating in close quarter with each other. And then you can see by comparison at the 5-foot scale how large star moths are. 50-foot scale, 5-foot scale, 50-foot scale, 500-foot scale. So then going back to the asteroid map, you can set up a board. It's a pain in the ass to have to run multiple maps at the same time. So if you have a computer that is capable of the processing power with everybody that you're working with at the table, to be able to have a grid, you can have the Theurgy and the like in this instance a Galleon. This was a fire that we had done, so we were dealing with these tokens with the crew trying to put out fire versus, and then they got hit by a plant growth spell. Sorry, an entanglement spell. So we covered the board with these little leaf icons. But anyway, the long story short that we're trying to say here is that you can of course run multiple windows and have each deck plan, and we can fetch the deck plan off of either D&D Beyond or any other online resource. Considering that these deck plans have been around since the 90s, it's pretty easy to find them. But you can easily fetch a floor plan off of here, and it has the scaling, so it just takes a little bit of work to be able to have it sit and scale properly into the map, but it can definitely be done. But having ships moving in relative distance to each other, going back to here real quick, you don't need to have a 5-foot scale map to push these 200-foot by 200-foot ships square by square by square. You can just have them sitting next to each other at the 50-foot scale, so you can see what the relative distance is. 50, like 50, 100, 150. This knight ship, this knight, in this example, right currently, if they're quote unquote dog fighting, they can remain adjacent to each other at the 500-foot scale. Like on this map, you'd have this guy, and then he would. If I can grab the corner of this, please stop embarrassing me. Now, come on, baby. No, oh, that's right, because I'm using. I should be able to get this. There. So the 500-foot scale, they're basically like pixies in a dungeon, right? You can't. A tiny-sized creature still fills a 5-foot square in a dungeon. So too does a ship fill a 500-foot space. But then you take it back over, and at the 50-foot scale, as long as they're adjacent to each other on the map here, then they're staying in relation to each other at the 50-foot scale, and you can span out. You can use as much as your map at the 50-foot scale as you want to have these ships engaging with each other. But then when they're actually adjacent to each other, when they're actually boarding, is the only time they actually need to worry about the two maps interacting at that scale. So if you're using a mix of theater of the mind and map scale, then generally you can pull off a 50-foot, like a 50 square by 40 square space is sufficient. The largest ships that you have in Spelljammer is 250 feet. So a hammer ship would be able to fit the full length of this, 1, 2, 3, but you don't have to worry about the lower decks unless you're actually boarding each other. So my off-the-cuff best solution I can offer in Roll20 would be to have the top deck plan for the ship here and the enemy ship that you're dealing with be adjacent to each other here, and then have separate maps for below decks. You could then have your deck plan, say, jump over here to another screen, and then you have the deck plans for the top layer, second layer, third layer down. Because once you're under deck, you're not engaging with ships directly anymore. And you can open up multiple instances of Roll20 in different windows so that you can be looking at different screens at the same time. So I don't have much better advice than that currently. But the supplement that we're building here is specifically designed to deal with working in multiple scales at the same time, specifically so that you can have better floor management, or better map management. Having a mix of, like, at the 500-foot scale and the 5-foot scale on different maps, or in this case, adjacent maps. And you can most often use the 50-foot scale. Can most often be used in Theater of the Mind, but if you specifically are working at a 50-foot scale map, like we had going with Descent of the Avernus here, when we were having our fighter craft go through a cave complex, these are 50-foot scale, so this worm is 100 feet by 100 feet, and the craft the guys are flying here are at 50-foot scale, but they're actually only 20 feet, but again, pixies fill a dungeon at the 5-foot scale, they fill the square. So you can have 500-foot scale, 50-foot scale, and 5-foot scale. 5-foot scale is only necessary if you're actually boarding a ship. If you're trying to avoid being boarded and you're scrimming, then the 50-foot scale, and then if you scale out again at 500-foot scale. I don't know if that is if that's going to be useful for you or not. Let me try to catch up with the comment. So you're talking basically about visualizing two different cameras. Yes, and they're both operating simultaneously without having to show what's happening. Right. Because you don't need to individually show your character's 5-foot movement unless they're actually being engaged by an enemy that is within melee range. If they are still at a larger scale range, like if you're firing a crossbow that's got a 300-foot range, you don't need to worry about where are they specifically positioned on deck. The question then is, do they have cover and can I see them? And then you just know how to resolve that. you don't actually need to zoom in and know individual people's position and location on the deck until you've got a boarding crew hopping across deck to come over here and start raffle stomping on people. So yeah, so you can just have that different scale. At the 500-foot scale, you can do a lot of individual movement and positioning, but 5e, the 5e supplement doesn't specifically provide rules about how to engage ships at the 500-foot scale of combat. There's Wildjammers out currently, which uses dark matter, which does deal at the 500-foot scale, but it doesn't have the intermediary scales of 550, 500, 1 mile, 10 mile, 100 mile scaling that you can have in dogfights and chases. So you can actually, if you want to go back and look at the very first episode in my series, in this playlist about Spelljammer, it talks about the logistics of running the Light as Arax, the Imperial Citadel for Zaraxis, working at the 1 mile, 550, and 5-foot scales. And of course, once this thing gets done, we'll be able to provide you with all the text and all the charts and the maps and stuff to be able to walk through it. But that's a quick crash course. Hopefully that's helpful to you. But what it really comes down to is just keeping a sense of proportion in mind, like literally, about when do you actually need a 5-foot deck, which is only when you're being boarded. And then you can have the 2 top decks of both ships adjacent to each other, like I was showing here. And then you can have separate windows for below deck. So if your team decides to go below deck, you can then hop over to a below deck map if you want to go room by room by room and kill all the little Padawans. You're certainly welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can just operate at the 50-foot scale and the 500-foot scale or larger scales. Either in Theater of the Mind, or if you have a supplement that allows you to operate like Wildjammer. If you're using Pathfinder, then Starjammer. Starfinder allows you to do that. But again, this supplement that we're building is specifically built to discuss how to operate between different scales. So here, I'll show you where we're at with it right now. So we're looking at this, and this is the pre-formatted. We've been working on the layouts for this, so this is still pre-layout. But we talk about the different ship properties, how to scale them. Let's get into combat maps and movements. We don't have any of the maps built yet, but we need to. But we're talking about how to operate within the different scales here. Ship facing and maneuverability, how to work initiative versus individual initiative and group initiative, scaling between the maps and how to integrate them together. You can pause on this stuff if you want to at some point. It should be there for you to look at. But it's once we have this broken down, we publish it on DMsGuild. All my work is always 100% preview. So once this gets published, you can look at the entire thing and read through the mechanics. And if you find it useful, we then ask that you buy it. There's actually a shitload of books I have down in the description link down below that leads you to a number of other books that I've created that are also 100% preview. So you can see the ship rolls here and how your action economy breaks down between actions, bonus actions, reactions, attack actions, interactions, and which role each one of them goes with. And we got your ship pilot rolls and how the pilot interacts, taking damage for the ship. We basically treat ships as temporary hit point pools that at low levels gives you more hit points than your character has, but at higher levels your character has more hit points than the ships. So you can either have your ship protect you at low levels, or you can protect your ship at high levels, depending on basically what level you're at. So, and we've done all of this testing through Light as Zaraxis, so we know it works for 5th through 8th level perfectly fine. And then in Descent into Avernus, we played up to level 15, so we know it scales up into 3rd and 4th tier as well. So here's all the different actions that pilots can take when you're having the pilot role. You can freely mix different roles with each other. So you can act both as a pilot and as a siege commander. So you can you can maneuver the ship and attack with your ram, while also commanding squads to attack. Here we're talking about blending roles in the scale of combat, integrating between the two, all the mechanics for how to command siege crews, different weapon effects. All this, again, this will all be free preview. But hopefully, It's honestly going to be a couple months before this publishes, so I'm not sure how quickly you guys are going to move through stuff, but let's go down here, past all the weapons, squadron mechanics for assembling multiple ships into a single unit that you can then have them attack in volleys and silos, working at the 501 mile scale range to continue scaling out. Talking about maintaining ships and crews, the crew rank, ship lifestyles, repairing vehicles. Let's scroll down. We'll get past spell amplification, so you can attack using spells at larger scale. So we got all that stuff in here too. Scroll through that, and we'll have this hyperlink, so it'll be easy for you to jump from section to section in the table of contents. But yeah, scaling distances. You can zoom in on this if you want. You can pause and take a look at this stuff, but it's nothing I haven't shared before. But encountering stuff, being able to visualize things at larger ranges so that you can use your orrery on your ship and focus your attention through the orrery to be able to use it as like a sonar radar system to be able to pick up on different objects at different scales and the detection DT, yada, 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 yada. Anyway, it's once you put all the different tools together, then it makes it easier for you to be able to go into like these different scales make a lot more sense. But just where you're at right now, just the simple 5-foot scale, and then using theater of the mind for 50-foot scale, and then being able to have just rudimentary 500-foot scale moving on a basic map should be sufficient. But once we get into the layouts next week, I think we'll be doing layouts next week. We'll be able to deep dive into this stuff more as we start pushing text around. But hopefully that gets you a starting spot where you can play with things. And we still have about 20 minutes left. Since a few folks had the scheduling busy up. Oh, right on. Blades of the Dark is cool. Yeah, Roll20 is a really smooth piece of machinery. It's boards, one of our 3D boards. Yeah, I'm waiting for Roll20 to come out with windows within windows, so you can have just stacks of different floor plans that you can move around more easily. I think they should be able to, since they've started integrating PDFs into Roll20, I think they are starting to get into the tech of being able to have like layered windows, so you can just have different floor plans and in different stacked, basically windows. That way I can stop having to worry about having these large 50-foot, these 50 by 50 square maps. I would be able to have a separate stack with a 500-foot map, and then have a stack with 50 on top of it, and then stack up the 5-foot scale, so that it's just like in the DM layer versus player layer versus map layer. Just have separate layers to be able to move the windows around inside it, like windows within windows. I think that's what you're talking about, but that's a really smart way to do it. But yeah, three-dimensional combat doesn't need to be any more complicated than what 5e already has it. You don't really gain any. I mean, considering three-dimensional space. I mean, if you're worrying about real-world physics, and you're like doing atmospheric combat where you're actually like having to worry about above and below, then God bless you, good luck. But Spelljammer specifically working in 0G, all you have to do is just change the angle of your ship, and now you're in a two-dimensional plane with the ship that you're targeting. And any other ships that get introduced into a scrimmage in relationship to you, you don't really have to worry about are they above or below us, because the way that Spelljammer works in 5th edition is there are no weapon arcs. The way that group initiative is designed is actually very clever. For as much shit as Wizards of the Coast gets for as light as their rules are, the rules are actually pretty good. It's just they didn't take enough time to really walk through the logic of what it is that you're capable of doing with Spelljammers as written, as they didn't devote enough text space to really get people on pardon the puns, but get on board with how we can use these ships more effectively. So, how to put give me a second here. I'm about to fall into like a major rant mode. So I want to make sure I've got my shit squared away here first. I'm going to duplicate this layer. Then we're going to free transform. Flip horizontal. Slide this into position. Merge down. Drop the opacity a bit. Okay, so since 5e they introduced group initiative, which is if you've been around for a while, group initiative is not a new thing. It's just something that D&D doesn't often get into. But the way that group initiative works is that basically you've just got a pile of action economy that all the characters can use basically together and in tandem, right? So if you've got 2 people in your party, you can go around the table and decide who does what, but you can also coordinate all of your actions so that, hold on, I actually decided that I want to have this darker here. Okay, so by having a group initiative system, it allows characters to basically batch all of their actions together, and everyone on your team goes, and then everyone on the enemy team goes. That's pretty straightforward, right? The way that they frame it is that because of the action economy, the way that Wizards has it is like if you want to fire a ballista, it's going to take 3 actions for you to load, aim, and fire the ballista, rinse, repeat, right? So from their perspective, it makes more sense to have the table just go around, and this isn't how we do it. We've modified action economy severely to feel like dungeon combat, but as it stands, just for the narrative, walking through this, where Wizards is coming from, is since it's going to take 3 actions or 5 actions for you to fire a mangonel. Like a mangonel takes 5, a ballista takes 3, a trebuchet basically takes 7, you know? So like it takes more actions to load up these larger machines to be able to fire once. So the way that Wizards approaches it is like, you know, instead of saying, "Hey, what's your initiative count?" It's my initiative count is 20, and the fighter's initiative count is 4. So I'm the wizard. I'm going to cast my spell, and that's it. Now it's time for everyone else to go. Now we're at initiative count 4. The fighter is going to spend his action loading the trebuchet, and loading the ballista. Next round he can aim it, and then the following round he can fire it, right? Well, that's ridiculously slow. So the way that they resolve it is by, well, let's just do group initiative. That way, if you've got 3 or 4 people in the party, 2 or 3 of them can load the ballista together and then fire it as a group. So you aren't ticking through the numbers like who's initiative. Like I have to now hold my action and ready my action for when the ballista is loaded, I can now aim it. And then the fighter held his action so that when the ballista is loaded and aimed, you can use your action to then fire it. Like it's super clumsy. Super clumsy. So they suggest use group initiative so that everyone can decide, well, yeah, I'm going to contribute the 3 of us are going to contribute our actions to fire the ballista. And then if we have like bonus actions, we can do whatever it is that we can do with our bonus actions. Like maybe I cast Spiritual Hammer or something because there's an Umber Hulk that's trying to jump on deck right now and I want to smack him in the face. For instance, right, as a hyper-specific example. Using that group initiative, Wizards really leans into that narrative. They've eliminated arc. They've like arcs of fire for weapons. Like you don't have to be within like a certain degree of movement to be able to hit something with your ballista or your mangonel, right? The way that group initiative works is instead, like if we kept individual initiative and you had a weapon that was ready to fire, but you were still fooling around with arcs of like weapon arcs, right? You would then have to hold your action until it's the pilot's turn to then roll the ship over so that the enemy ship you want to hit is now visible and within range of your arc of fire. If your initiative isn't sequenced properly, none of your weapons can attack until the pilot maneuvers the ship into position that you can actually fire at the enemy that you want to hit. Or if there's like you have your pilot's initiative, enemy initiative, and then your fighter's weapon crew initiative. If the pilot rolls the ship into position, and now it's the enemy's turn, they can just maneuver their ship, so they're hiding in the behind the ship again. So now that it's the fighter's turn, I don't have any fire anymore. I can't attack because during the enemy's ship initiative, they just hid behind the ship. So you're just wasting time over and over again, holding and delaying actions to try to maneuver your stupid ship into position so you can frickin' fire. That's where I respectfully crap on most of the supplements that are being put out for 5th edition that are trying to monkey around with weapon arcs, maneuverability, turn radiuses. None of it works using 5e. In 2nd edition, when your round of combat was 1 minute, where you could, and they didn't monkey around with individual initiative back in 2nd edition. They used group initiative pretty as a this is a common thing to use. So it was well within the rationale and zeitgeist of 2nd edition to have these 1 minute long rounds, and where you had weapon crews that you were commanding to load, aim, and fire weapons. We were able to pick that up and bring it into 5th edition using the supplement by leaning into what 5th edition already provided for us. Group initiative is a means. I am not a proponent of group initiative in Spelljammer. I think individual initiative, once you have action economy that individual characters can use, group initiative no longer is necessary. However, the narrative of group initiative is important. Again, talking about coordinating your actions as a team. So you don't have to hold your specific individual actions to wait until the pilot rolls your ship around so that you can target your enemy with the weapon systems that you want to use. Group initiative allows you to, once the pilot rolls the ship over, I can fire my weapon. And then the pilot rolls the ship again so that the catapult can fire. And then the ship rolls again so that you can then slam a ram attack into the side of the ship, use your pincer claws to grapple the ship and then scuttle its gravity. Like, you can narrate that all as group initiative. This is what our team is doing together. But then you can then take that mentality of what's your pilot doing this turn. Your pilot wants to move and wants to make a ram attack. Great. That's what your pilot is doing. What's your fighter doing? Your fighter's commanding 2 ballistic teams right now to load, aim, and fire ballistas at that same enemy ship. So when's your pilot going? Your fighter can go before your pilot, because thinking in that group initiative mindset, you can always narrate that the ship is rolling over and that weapons are within range to fire at each other. The enemy ships have that same advantage. So that takes you back to being a pixie flying in a dungeon in 5-foot squares with a bow. And your pixie is able to fire, move, fire, pull a dagger, stab you, right? That's the kind of things that a pixie can do in combat in a dungeon. If you keep the idea of group initiative as how ships are maneuvering and keeping line of sight on each other, then you can back out again into the group, into individual initiatives, where given default that the ship is always going to be in the proper position for you to be able to have sights on and take action against your enemy, what do you want to do? Otherwise, you either have to deal with this weapon arc garbage and maneuverability to see how fast your ship can turn so you can get your weapon arcs back online. 5e did away with all of that on purpose. They didn't spend the amount of time that they needed to in the document to hold our hands to walk us through what exactly is this gyroscopic gravity system allowing us to actually do with our action economy, which was, again, another reason why I needed to make this supplement, to help people see what Wizards wasn't willing to invest the ink to explain, like, how good the system actually is and how much simpler it is than all this maneuverability class, weapon arc, turn radius. It's all garbage. It's completely unnecessary with Spelljammer. They specifically allow you to turn on a dime, so that in using group initiative, you can use that dime turning to get yourself into positions exactly where you need whenever you need to be there. It's just, they kind of left that part out, and I honestly don't think they intended for that. It's just, if you look at the text, that's what it lets you do. So we built this entire supplement around that group initiative, individual initiative sort of mentality. So having said all that, basically was for me to summarize for you that you don't have to worry about three-dimensional space. You can just keep everything in 2 dimensions. And as more ships get added to the equation, it's just you're lining your ship up with them. So you don't have to worry about who's above and below us. You don't gain initiative. You don't gain any advantages in 5e for having higher ground. So it doesn't really matter. You can keep them represented in a mass combat system sort of idea of multiple ships engaging with each other at the same time, being represented on the 2-dimensional plane. So you can keep your mapping simple as just a 2D space. You don't have to worry about, do I have elevation over this? Do I have guns on the bottom of my ship as well as on the top of my ship? Or in 3 dimensions, do I need to roll my ship over upside down so I can pop, fire down at a ship below us? No, you just need, using the logic of group initiative and gyroscopic gravity control that is already inside of Spelljammer's Adventures in Space, you can have your weapons fire on anything that you can see, as long as they are within range, and there isn't any objects that are providing cover to prevent targeting. So sorry, that was kind of a long story, but hopefully the redundancy and the mojo joeing of the terms over and over again helped lock down the ideas here that people are making ship combat in Spelljammer way more complicated than it needs to be. And the truth is that you just need a little bit more complicated mapping, more in-depth mapping, to allow you to see how these vehicles can interact with each other in a zero-G environment, and look at how action economy is being used during a round of combat. Keeping that idea of group initiative, but still allowing characters to act individually if you wish. So every system that I've seen so far uses the ship roll as alternate actions, like instead of your character's normal action economy in 5e combat, but we specifically built this so that you can continue using your actions, bonus actions, reactions, and iterative attacks during the attack action to command and act on the ship, so that you can freely choose between drawing my cutlass and my pistol and shooting enemies that are coming aboard my ship, while then taking a bonus action to command weapons to fire at the 50 or 500 foot scale, and then commanding, like, your pilot, say your rogue is your pilot, to then have them maneuver the ship so that they can attempt to scuttle, or ram the ship or grapple with it, depending on what your tools are, as an action, as movement economy, as a bonus action to make the attacks. So using the same action economies that we have in the dungeon 5-foot scale, we can then extrapolate that and freely use those actions between both ship actions and character actions at the same time during initiative. You just choose what scale do you want to operate in, and what action, like, if we go back to the document that we have. Yeah, I'll just brag this out real quick. Get back up into it. Example that we had of blending rolls. Get back up into the rolls. I'm looking forward to hyperlinking this whole thing so it's easy for me to maneuver through it. But for now, we're still in construction. So scrolling through ranged ships. We have an example I think kind of boils this all down into a really fun narrative for people to be able to visualize as blending roles and scales of combat. So characters can freely mix actions as individuals and ship roles each round. For example, a character can take the attack action to hit a creature with a sword on deck at the 5-foot scale, then take command of a siege crew to issue a command with an extra attack to fire a ballista at the 50-foot scale while dogfighting another ship at close range, before then using their walking speed to approach and sit at the ship's helm, then take a bonus action to regain focus to pilot the ship, to then take an object interaction to maneuver the ship at the 500-foot scale. Furthermore, characters can share roles of support, siege, squadron command during a round of combat, allowing all characters to continue to succeed, continue the successes to encounter at any scale. So, and then similarly, a squadron commander role, as described above, a commander can order the pilot of a single ship to move and make a siege weapon attack as a command action, and order any number of siege crew aboard the ship to fire as a siege command as well. And then suggest implementing group initiative during ship combat and exploration, allowing characters to combine their actions during a round of combat. However, the options offered herein provide more opportunity for characters to work as a team at the scale of ships. So group initiative isn't necessary for players to meaningfully contribute aboard a ship, because they have all of these actions that you can take. You can help focus. You've got reloading to help your crew reload a weapon if they need to, scanning for additional targets, targeting to gain advantage on attacks, warding the pilot to help them maintain their concentration if they take damage for the ship, opportunity attacks, readying attacks, reloading, taking command, moving squadrons, disengaging, defending, deflecting attacks, command actions, opportunity attacks, readying. Yeah, you can pause on this at any point, take a look at this stuff, but again, it'll all be free for y'all to view. So pilot actions here, moving the ship, opportunity attacks, pacing, readying actions, scuttling, melee attacks, hiding, disengage, deflect, defend, siege damage, taking damage, pilot checks, ship roll, and then here's the matrix. Here's how opportunity attacks get processed. Here's how you process pursuits. Here's how you pace ships that are trying to outscale and maneuver past you. Maintaining relative distance in pursuits. Off-scale movements on maps. Mixing maps and theater of the mind. This is a good little tidbit. All three scales of maps described above can be placed next to each other as depicted in the Roll20 map that we'll provide you with a screenshot of in this document. The 500-foot scale is on the far left. There. 500-foot scale is on the far left, occupying a 30 by 30 square on the VTT. And the 50-foot scale in the middle, occupying a 10 by 20 square, and then the 5-foot map, the Wasp. Well, I've got a galleon and a night spider here, but we'll use a Wasp on the map that we use in here. So the vast scale of battle depicted in Spelljammer Adventures in Space is different from other campaign settings and adventures. It can be difficult to just find enough space while playing in person to place these three maps together. If preferred, any number of the separate maps can instead use Theater of the Mind, so that additional space isn't necessary. Players and DMs can mix and match between table space, Theater of the Mind, and VTT as needed to seamlessly transition between ship combat and creatures on deck, which we then go into mapping and scaling duration, which you can look at. Ship facing, maneuvering, the 5-foot scale boarding maps, 50-foot scale close range dogfighting, 500-foot scale far maps. We talk about range of combat here. Combat maps and scaling maneuverability, how much distance you can make over the course of a round for different scale ships. Anyway, so once this gets fleshed out and we have the different maps and the examples, hopefully everything will make a lot of sense and it'll be able to click in people's heads. So, but it looks like I ended up allowing myself to get distracted. I love the conversation. Thanks for asking, and thanks for bringing it up. This has led me to slowing down token production. So I'm going to, oops, it is time for me to go. It is 8 o'clock. So I'm going to have to be back tomorrow morning. I think we'll have this, yeah, we'll finish this for sure tomorrow. And then we'll start in on the fighter craft. We're going to build out better floor plans, and then we're going to illustrate these the same as we have here. So like, subscribe, follow, share. Be welcome to check out some of the older content. And once we get into layouts, you'll have an opportunity to really stare at the text that we have, and we'll build out all the assets that go along with it. But I gotta go. I got my day job I gotta get to. So thanks a lot for stopping by, guys. Certainly appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. That's probably the greatest good anyone can do for me right now. And check out the books if you like them. Buy some of them. That's certainly appreciated. Otherwise, just enjoy the ideas and the artwork. And I will be back in 22 hours to continue doing this with y'all again. So thanks a lot, guys. No, don't worry about derailing at all, man. I do this stuff so we can talk about it. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll just keep doing it. So I'll catch you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot.